There was melee at this local play place tonight at 6 o'clock on Reaction News. Good evening, ladies and gents. We go live with this officer. Sir, can you tell us what happened, please?
It was really trivial.
Well, wow. Tell us what you really think.
Police say in the latest fight here, a 16-year-old girl provoked an adult at a birthday party.
As silly as that sounds, the whole incident started over someone asking for a cigarette.
Friends tried to break up the fight.
The juvenile didn't take too kindly to it and began throwing salt and pepper shakers, climbing on tables, pushing children, pushing other adults. When you have people behaving in that fashion, we just can't accept that.
Welcome back, folks. Sergeant Be Safe here, and most of you guys already know that Rob You Blind and his crew recently escaped from prison. And since then, they've been running amok and causing chaos everywhere. Like I always say, if you see a crime, report it, so you don't become a victim of a crime of opportunity from Rob You Blind. Let me show you this example. The case of 220-225. The robbery on the run, the Uber grab gambit. We start this case off with seeing Maya outside on the phone having a good time, and her neighbors ordered something for special delivery. The delivery driver shows up, looks for the address, leaves the car parked in the middle of the street. This is the address I'm looking for. The car is left unlocked and running as he approaches the front door. Let me upload this picture to the app. Shows that I delivered it. Ooh. And with no one paying attention, Rob You Blind creeps right in.
Oh no, Rob You Blind is about to steal your car.
Easy pickings for a guy like me.
Hey, don't do that. That's my car. Oh no, he's stealing my car.
I better call Sergeant Be Safe.
He's gonna kill me now. I know I should have turned the car off and locked the door. Hello, Maya. What's going on? Okay. Calm down. Oh boy, I knew Rob You Blind was gonna cause trouble soon. You guys stay there. I'm on the way.
I was so scared, but I'm glad you're here now, Sergeant Be Safe.
Unfortunately, he's a victim. We're gonna take the report and get right on it and track it down. Rob You Blind makes it back to his secret hideout where they begin to paint the car to change it into a different color.
I can't believe it. That was too easy. It's all mine. My plan is complete. I'll have it all.
You fool! I know it may be inconvenient and bothersome, but delivery drivers, please lock the doors and turn the vehicle off when making deliveries. Don't become a victim of auto theft or something more serious. Now I have work to do. I have to find these bad guys and stop these crimes. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way. Ladies, why am I little? Nah, we got it. There we go. They're taking up the whole screen. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another weekly episode of the podcast Black and Blue. I am excited to see you. I hope you guys are excited to be here. I am your host. I'm your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's Coach Clee coming at you. I am Ecclesiastics Crimes Code 302, the coldest code switching detective, and you can spell my name CLEE, and that stands for Continuing Law Enforcement Edutainment, because we educate and we entertain at the same time. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we go live weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when we go live with the first responder or law enforcement officer who's either rookie, seasoned, or retiree. And we talk about their trainings, their experiences, and their publication. And we're not going to fall short today. Today's going to be a little different than the normal setup. We got to actually have a recording of the interview that took place prior. But I guarantee you it's going to be dynamic because it's going to be, one, edited. So you get the all my mishaps and all my mistakes will be already edited out. So therefore, you'll get the meat and potatoes of the interview. It's going to be a great interview. I'm excited to be here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're streaming on 7 different platforms. That's right, 7. We're on 5 on Facebook. And I'm sorry, 4 on Facebook, 1 on LinkedIn, and 2 on YouTube. So therefore, I can't see where everyone's at right now, but make sure you hit that like button so we can hit the algorithm. Make sure you guys tag, like, share, and subscribe so we can get this information out here, because this is Black and Blue. The podcast is just for you, where we move the needle forward and we attempt to humanize the badge and show a different and the kinder side of a police department, but not just kind of the more realistic side of law enforcement and first responders. All right. And like I said, we're on 7 different platforms, so I can't see who's on here. So if you have a question, make sure you put it in the comment section, and I'll make sure I address that as soon as I can. If you just want a shout out, make sure you put your name and where you're from in the comment section, and we'll get you that shout out that you're looking for. All right. We're having a lot of fun doing this. This podcast is brought to you by One Way Publishing. One Way Publishing is the sponsor for not only Black and Blue, the podcast, but it's also the sponsorship for Sergeant Be Safe. You got to see 2 of his cartoons in the beginning. He's got a whole channel. Make sure you check his channel out too. It's Sergeant Be Safe on YouTube as well. So make sure you guys check him out, tag, like, and share him as well. He's got a lot of great stuff out there. But One Way Publishing not only is a publishing company, it's a book publishing company. And that's where you get to see a few of them behind me right now. A couple of the books that I got to publish, some of them are digital right now. And they also have their own clients that publish their own books through there as well. You see the website scrolling below. It's also in the comment section. Workwithclee.com is how you want to go ahead and either, if you want to be on the show, if you want to help do a voiceover for Sergeant Be Safe, or if you ever wanted to write your own book, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, cookbook, comic book, fantasy, whatever it may be, One Way Publishing can get that thing done for you. Their motto is they can turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. So if you ever wanted to be a published author, that's the way to go. We make that thing done from beginning to end. The only thing that doesn't happen is don't have a distribution, so you don't get the printed book, but we do have ways to outsource that. So it's a one-stop shop. We can get it all done. This is Black and Blue. The podcast is just for you. Enough of the promotion stuff. We're going to jump right into it. We're going to be uploaded on Spotify. If you're not already subscribed to that, we're going to be uploaded on there as well. I already mentioned One Way Publishing, so I got all the sponsors out the way. Now we can get into the meat and potatoes of the show. This is what I like to do. This is the podcast where we have a special guest. This special guest, we've been trying to hook this up for a long time. I'm glad we were able to get the conversation done. He's a great interviewer. He has great techniques. He's got great information to share. His name's Eric Tung. He's over there on the West Coast. If you guys are familiar with him, make sure you check out his YouTube page. Make sure you check out his Instagram page. He explains all that as well. Eric, I'm gonna give him a quick intro here, and then we're gonna jump right into the interview itself. He's been in law enforcement for close to 2 decades now. He focuses on support and wellness. He's a mentor. Not only mentor, he's also helps out with mental and physical health. He's worked in such capacities as FTO, a K-9 officer, worked in civil disturbance, community education, recruiting and hiring, peer support. He's certified in critical incident stress and debriefing. He's a fitness trainer. He's also a commander with his department. And if you haven't already figured it out, he's got his own website for Blue Grit Wellness and the Blue Grit Radio for his own podcast. And without further ado, we're going to bring that recording up here. So make sure you give him the shout out that he deserves. And, our round of applause is through likes, tags, and shares. So make sure you guys give him that. And I'm going to step back and I'm going to bring Eric Tung to the stage. Eric, let's do it. Live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. I appreciate it. We got special guest Eric Tung here. Eric, I appreciate you making yourself available to come on the show today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, man. So I'm out in Washington State. I've been in police work for going on 18 years, and I started about as young as you can, right? I tested at 21, got hired through Academy out at 22. And so I've been working in Western Washington, where I mostly grew up. Just been doing the thing, pretty mid-sized, busy agency, doing different roles, K-9 field training officer, went to patrol sergeant after a number of years, worked a couple different units, and now I'm active police commander, overseeing patrol, and then also a lot of our wellness and peer support efforts at my department.
Gotcha. That sounds like you got a lot on your plate, but it's necessary to have guys like you who are willing to do the job and still move the needle forward, as we like to talk about on this platform. So thank you. I commend you. Absolutely. Before we officially get started, can you tell us what gave you the burning desire to actually want to be a first responder and get into law enforcement?
Yeah, for sure. So I, like a good group, didn't actually grow up wanting to be in law enforcement. I was raised pretty traditional Asian American with certain stereotypical expectations, but really is through coming up and going through high school and kind of crossing things off the list rather than checking the boxes of getting to where I was expected or had always kind of been raised to go. It was in college where I saw a lot of the crime, a lot of the hurt and the victimization in, downtown Seattle and the North End, where I was going to school. And it really made me feel super frustrated and also a little disempowered. And I always had a strong affinity towards the uniformed services, whether it was military or first responders, like utmost respect growing up, raised that way to respect those that are looking out for you and try to protect you. And so it really just a coming of age thing where I wanted to be boots on the ground. I wanted to make a literal difference and feel and see the difference I was making. And I just kind of went this total 180 where I was like, hey, I'm just going to learn everything I can about police and fire. Shout out to the firefighters. I tested for both, starting my junior year of college, and no doors open for fire at the time. It's kind of crazy now that they're actually having trouble hiring, but after decades of that never being a thing, and now, I suppose at the time, a lot of doors started opening up for police, and I started figuring out that whole, arduous process of oral boards and all the meticulous background checks and all that, and eventually landed with a couple different opportunities and where I currently work now.
Gotcha. Thank you for giving us the rundown. I love asking that question. For one, for the younger first responders in law enforcement, or guys and gals who actually want to get their feet wet into law enforcement. They're kind of like, they're teetering on the side. I don't know if I want to do it. But it's very interesting to hear what gave people the burning desire. Sometimes you hear, I'm a second generation or third generational law enforcement officer. I've always wanted to do this. I knew this at 4. A couple of guys said, I did my first ride along and I was sold. And then others like, I didn't want to be a cop. I didn't even like cops. I just actually needed a full-time job with benefits. So therefore I got into it, and then I found out I loved it. And so you have all walks of life and all different stories on how everyone came into the business of law enforcement.
Absolutely, man. Like I came out of recruiting before I went to commander level. And so I was recruiting and hiring sergeant, running backgrounds. And that was 2021, right? So it was one of the hardest times. But when all of us were in so much hurt, we're just trying to do our best. Those that are in it, those that are our friends that left, and no ill feeling, of course. But so many of us just attached to that narrative, like, hey, no one wants to be a cop. Why would anyone want to be a cop? But after a pause, after things started to settle, you start talking to people. So many people grew up wanting to serve, and like a lot of people saw a lot of things that they didn't like, right? You mentioned the people that didn't have the best perception of cops, and they're like, you know what? I could flip that. I could be part of the change. And so both are welcome, right? We need all types to come in and do this work. So I love that you even highlight that, because it is oftentimes really helpful for people to hear, a reminder of why they came in and other people want to come in.
Yeah, thank you. So was there a pivotal moment in your career that made you, that helped you develop the Blue Grit Wellness Program and becoming a peer and working on physical fitness and mental wellness?
Yeah, there wasn't one moment. Certainly in my career, as I've reflected and building more on Blue Grit Wellness, like my social media, my website, and then Blue Grit Radio, my podcast, it's all kind of gradual. But when I look back and I track why are the reasons why I care so deeply about peer support? Why do I care so deeply about physical fitness? They all happen in the career, right? So being a young guy, I was not an adrenaline junkie. I thought, if anything, I was really good at hitting the books. I thought I'd be a great detective. And some of my first sergeants said, man, you write good paper, you should be an investigator. You do good interviews, you're really meticulous. But after a couple of years of patrol, man, I wanted to foot chase. I wanted to get those bad dudes and dudettes, right? And so I gravitated towards K9, like the generalist end of things, which is a very different skill set. And so I was like, man, if I'm gonna contend with these guys that are gonna increasingly stay the same age and I'll increasingly get older, I want to be the quickest, nimblest, I want to be able to lift my dog, jump over a fence, all this stuff, be strong. And so I really dove into fitness at a higher level than just reading muscle magazines in college like all my buddies were. Like, we didn't really know anything. We're just doing what they tell us to do. It's all the same every, rinse, repeat. But learned a ton about nutrition and a ton about fitness, peer support. I was in the idea. I was down to support and be part of the team. But it really wasn't until I saw a lot of residual with like my officer-involved shooting, critical incidents, also losing a buddy in the line of duty, that really helped me recognize I could take it up another level. Take it up another level with like my agency, what other people are doing in the region and nationally, as far as like more, I suppose, organizational, institutional like framework. And so, going back to the original question, like why Blue Grit? It was really in 2020 when I put it all together. Like I'd put some workout stuff on my social media before, and I'd talk about fitness and nutrition because people would ask me about it. But then I was like, hey, how do I flip something into a positive direction where we can control only what we can control, and a lot of that starts with us, like our own health in all the aspects. And so it literally just started as like a social media page, one part that, one part just trying to share a lot of what cops are thinking and feeling, a little bit of, you have your tagline, like humanize the badge, in just a way that's real and raw. Because when I would comment about how a lot of us are trying to do this work, I'd get positive feedback from my non-cop contacts saying, hey, we need more cops like you. And I'm like, man, if you only knew, you got tons of cops like me or better than me. We're just quiet about it and we're restricted in a lot of ways. But that's what really gave me that momentum to continue building that from 2020.
Gotcha. And it's been a good journey ever since. I know watching some of your episodes on social media here and watching the workouts and watching the nutrition, you get valuable information. And I know it's valuable information. You're welcome. It's good information for those that are on patrol, especially that are working shift work. Whether it's 12 hour, 8 hours, whatever department that you may be with. I know departments that work 12-hour shifts, whether it's 7 to 7 a.m., 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and vice versa, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then they switch, whether it's weekly, quarterly, monthly, however it is. And that's tough on the body. It's tough on the sleep schedule. It's tough on your appetites and your diets, because you're constantly have to find ways to stay healthy and eat at a certain time in the middle of the night or not eat. It works on it's hard on the family. It's hard on anything that you have going on, even current cases that you may be working, because you may have court on your night shift. So therefore you have to stay up and go to court, then find a way to get to sleep and still function and make it to the kids' baseball game, and then get back to work and still function at a high level. So you're giving much needed advice for a lot of younger officers, younger first responders, and old timers as well, to stay physically fit, to be healthy and nutritious, to keep your mind unclouded so you can still perform at a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all just trying to be helpful, right? So like the whole reason, as I stated, like why I started Blue Grit Wellness, and now the tagline is more like just building better cops, like helping build better cops and better teams, is there's a lot we can do, a lot we can't control, right? So let's focus on what we can and just be adaptable, right? The whole thing about grit is just adaptability and enduring. So we have longevity, right? It's not just about the career, it's about home life, it's about retirement. It's like the whole package. How do we just become better humans so we can do this thing called police work as long as we so choose, right? We're not exited out because of an injury or because of mental injury. We can build our resilience. Absolutely, man. It's all, a lot of it's from personal anecdote and just research, just diving in. You mentioned sleep. That was probably one of my hardest struggles out of all the health pillars, working graveyard and just not sleeping. Cortisol way too high, getting jacked up, over caffeinating just to get to the gym. Whereas in hindsight, I should have not gone to the gym. I should have gone on a walk, taken my dog out, right? I should have done those things, meditated, journaled, whereas, just trying to hit everything with a hammer, like, let's go. That's common in law enforcement, first responder types as well. So absolutely, man.
Yeah, thank you for touching on that. I know sleep was very difficult for me as well for working patrol overnights. Overnights were fun. I loved them. Don't get me wrong. If I could pick a shift to stay on, I would have stayed on nights permanently. You get the fun, you get the camaraderie, you get the better quality calls, in my personal opinion. So therefore, I enjoyed it. However, the caveat to that was getting off in the morning, watching everyone get up and go to either work or school, or watch all your neighbors leave out for work while you're just coming home. And for me, I had to wind down a little bit, and then eventually get some sleep. And I would average maybe 4 to 5 hours was probably good. Yeah. I was back up and then I was ready to start the day. And I did not want to waste the day either. I felt like I was missing something or wasting.
Dude, I was right there with you. I mean, you either make the flip, and a lot of people, when they go on their days off, feel like they either sleep, they feel like they missed their first day, or they missed their family, or I would stay up, right? I would get up early morning, or just stay up and then crash out at 8 or 9 p.m. And your body is just reacting. I wasn't going to bed, I was crashing. And that's what all too many of us experience, just like you said.
Yeah. So with Blue Grit Wellness, what kind of challenges have you faced since 2020 and 2021 in developing the pillars and the podcast and everything, all the positivity that you have moving forward?
Yeah, so it's just been a work in progress, and I try to adapt. I think part of my whole mission, personal mission, is to stay adaptable to what the need is. So one of my personal mantras I try to spread with my officers is serve the need, right? We're always recognizing a problem that we can bring some solution to. And so Blue Grit has evolved. It started, as I said, with fitness and peer support kind of messaging. As I went into recruiting, it became really recruiting heavy, right? Because that's where I get a lot of feedback and a lot of thoughts and just sharing tips and insights for hiring. So I still do that because I get a lot of questions and insight and offer some mentoring and coaching for people that want to become cops that are having some sticking points, all those things. Then I went into training, doing training sergeant. So I became just more engrossed with, the importance of training tactics and these different conversations. How do you get patrol ready? So it's really just followed whatever my 40 plus hours a week have been, because that's where my mind's at all the time, which is why I talk so much about leadership and culture. And so it's leadership, sure, for command or for sergeants, but it's really everyone. It's leadership at all levels. Again, that's such a foundational piece of your mindset, what you bring to your day-to-day, what you bring to your crew. Again, if you don't recognize your ownership and your own personal agency and what you bring and how you bring it, then where do you build everything off of, right? All these things of wellness, it's not just to be fluffy. It's that is the framework that helps you do what you want to do.
Yeah, and I like how you said, basically, it's the foundation that you build off of, so you can not only you be successful, but the agency as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So with a newer officer, a younger officer, and I like to go back to this because a lot of, at least from my point of view, there's a lot of young college age or military age males and females that are interested in law enforcement, first responding, but don't know, they want to get their feet wet, but they don't know how. What kind of information or what kind of coaching calls maybe do you suggest to them if they reach out and say, Eric, I want to get into law enforcement, but I don't know if I want to do it full time. I don't know if I want to do it for my entire life. I don't know. I want to get into it and then find out I don't like it or I'm not good at it. What kind of advice?
Yeah, I would say the content like this, I'd say start with what's free, right? So I put out so much content, you put out so much content, but just free, just immerse yourself in the culture, right? Sure, watch videos. A lot of times that can be all the high incident, low frequency types of things like shootings, but that is important, right? If you watch that and you're ooh, I don't know, that's okay. That's not how we were raised a lot of times. But if you're absolutely not, then that tells you something, right? But if you're I'm intrigued, I don't feel prepared, that's okay. You don't have the training yet, right? So just do what you can to build those networks, right? Whether it's social media, a ton of people are putting out really good info. I do a free newsletter that you can subscribe to on my website. The podcast, there's a lot of episodes as you scroll the titles. Again, almost all of them mention, hey, for those new people coming in, this is what I mean, or this is things to think about work-life balance, wellness, things like that. vigilance, right? All these things we talk about, we need to know and understand. At the same time, there's also titles that are specific to applying, right? Making sure your life's squared away, make sure relationships are squared away. So start there, and then I actually built a guide. So shameless plug, rather than doing all these coaching calls and talking about the process and how to interview, it's like a 30-page guide, like an ebook, essentially, that you can get on my website as well. So that is a lot more streamlined than someone could cover in more than a dozen sections. So that's really, again, just trying to provide what people are continually asking for. And then we go from there. I'm always answering questions on Instagram or email when people just reach out, like, hey, where do I start, or what do I look at?
Right. I like it. Finding a way to give back. That's nice. I'm showing my age. I remember before, when I was getting out of the Army and interested in law enforcement, and social media wasn't a big thing at the time. I was a young man then, this before all the platforms. But I would watch every single episode of Cops on TV. Whether it was a new episode, whether it was older, I could DVR it, and I would continue to watch it. And I know some of it was TV fluff as well, but the majority of it, I'd be interested in who they are, what agency they were working with, what call they were going to, how they responded to the call, how they stood in interview position during the call, gathering information when things would go wrong. What did they see that I didn't pick up on, that they immediately saw, that they knew it was going wrong? And it was interesting. I was so immersed in it that by the time I got to the academy and started working 3 to 5 years on the job, I stopped watching Cops because I was now living it, and watching it, I was critiquing them. I'm like, you can tell this is TV. You're doing it. This is fluff. I had a whole different mindset on it.
Yeah, right. And I do encourage people, we talk about off duty, like your whole life can't be police. And it is a little bit hypocritical, because I think in work and all this stuff, even with my business and my social media, all the time, but it can't be all the time. Like, this can't be everything you do, but it is really helpful when you watch a video, and not to disparage the cops, to be like, oh, that's literally what we talk about, what we talk about at roll call, what not to do, right? So you can continue to learn. I love how you said that. It reminded me, because I'm in that in-between phase, right? There wasn't the prevalence of there weren't podcasts when I was coming up in the career, really. Right. I mean, no one was talking about it, but definitely not the type of content, not YouTube like there is now. But we had some crazy cable package with my roommates, and I found, like, on the Outdoor Network or something, like, there'd be all these civilian geared kind of tactical channels. When I was a new cop, I would watch those, because they'd talk about clearing your own home, like personal security, if you heard like a bump in the night. And I would be watching, and some of the things I was like, that's interesting. I'm going to ask my training sergeant about that, or I'm going to ask the SWAT dude on my crew. But then it helped me kind of contextualize some things, and some things I saw where I'm like, we would absolutely never do that. I know why, right? So I love that example where you're talking about watching Cops, and that is how a lot of people get hooked and they get interested. And then there are so many things you can learn by just absorbing all you can absorb.
Yeah, exactly. I'm showing my age right there by talking about.
And I feel with the people we're hiring, or the guys and gals that I hired, where I'd be a young dad, but I could be their dad. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm big uncle now, so that's what I consider myself that.
Nice.
Well, let me ask you about true health. What is true health, and when it comes to first responders and law enforcement, in your terms, what do you believe that is?
Yeah, personalized and so individualized. So, I mean, you ask a group of cops, 100 cops, you're going to have 100 different answers. There's going to be a lot of overlap, right? But like, how fit do you need to be? How proficient with firearms? How do you decompress? You need therapy. No, I never do therapy. I have church. I have my wife. I have my buddy, right? All these things. But true health, I would say, is having the right mechanisms and routines to live the best version of your life that you want to live, right? That absolutely encompasses family and career and all these things, right? But it's not to say it could be one thing, and it's always shifting, right? So the best version of my health at 30 is way different than it is right now. At something like 40 is like knocking on my door. I have to do my workouts differently. Like when I wasn't in my mid 30s, I was getting injured. Like that was a wake up call. All these things, right? So you got to keep adapting, have grace, be patient with the process. And like the majority of it, mindset, if you are patient with it, you recognize the growth mindset, how you can continue to grow and develop regardless of your situation. That's the majority of it, right? So just being able to do the things you want to do, essentially.
Gotcha. And so in a perfect world with Blue Grit Wellness, your podcast and your teachings and everything, where would you see yourself in about 3 to 5 years? If where do you consider yourself building to, growing to, expanding to?
Yeah, I've been asked that a couple times, like really specifically. They're like, hey, what's the end product? And like, I don't know what the end product is, because it literally is way different than how I perceived it. I literally just thought I'd be, working out in uniform a couple times here and there and doing some nutrition stuff, like food posts 5 years ago, right? And now it's a podcast, it's a blog, it's a newsletter. I might be speaking. Like I didn't want to do those things, but if there's the need, again, like I'm willing to try it. I'm going to put myself in the gauntlet and accept the challenge, right? So all these things, in the short term, I'm building a course that's almost done, like an online course that is essentially easier than doing all the scheduling of like coaching, right? So just like the guides for promotion and hiring that I have, an online course that's mainly wellness and mindset, right? So it's that framework through a few hours. A book is kind of like nagging at me to kind of put these, because everyone accepts information different ways, right? Some people are like, hey, write a book. And I'm like, okay, yeah, some people aren't podcast people, but they absolutely get a lot from a book. So I'm just trying to grow with it, staying busy and productive with my full-time job, right? Being a uniform commander still. That's extremely rewarding and validating. So it's just trying to adapt with it and roll with it. And I'll give this nod to those that are listening in, because those that are listening in are doing more than, they're not clocking in and out. People that are tuning into my show or your show, they're trying to develop themselves more and be more contributing and constructive. I would say, like, be patient with the long game. I have to tell myself that at times. Slow and steady, right? Don't burn out, even if it is in your side hustle or overtime to get to this means, whatever the thing is. So that's a really long-winded answer saying, as long as I'm growing, I'm happy. Like that's where I don't feel stagnant. I get anxious, so I feel like I'm not really doing anything new or challenging.
I like that. I think that's a good answer. I always say stagnant water attracts mosquitoes.
For sure.
You got to get those bloodsuckers out of your life. And being flexible to move in various ways. Trust me, I know. Not wanting to do public speaking or do courses and all, and then ironically by doing podcasting or just sharing information, somehow you get invited to these platforms. And I never intended to do this, and you don't say no, because you have no idea who you can actually touch and help, and you mold and craft yourself to actually do these things, and you build on your skill set, and it actually makes you a better person, a better individual, a better first responder, so therefore you can make better first responders as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So therefore, let me ask you this. As a patrol commander, a supervisor, leadership, you talked about leadership earlier in the conversation. How important is it to be a leader amongst leaders, amongst alpha individuals? And how important is it for the newer officers to develop their leadership skills as well?
Yeah, it's imperative, right? It's your sense of self. It's like, why do you get up in the morning? Why do you go put on this uniform, and how do you show up? Because if you're a fly on the wall, and I'm not saying that you got to be alpha, like the majority of us aren't, right? There's like true alphas, and then the most of us we're team workers. It doesn't have to be our way or the highway, right? When you think of categorical alpha, I'm definitely not. So when you think about like coming in, whether you're the rookie, like how you show up to your roll call, whether you laugh at that actually terrible joke about, your peer, or whether you just sit there and you quiet, or you object, like your choice, right? I'm not saying you object at every format, right? But you show up the way that you decide, right? How you show up on that call. If someone's getting a little snarky with a very difficult subject, do you tap that person out and say, hey buddy, I got you? Because you're not actually emotionally involved, right? That's all leadership, right? So when leading amongst leaders, you're one piece of the team, but it has nothing to do with role or rank. And that's what I really try to impress. I will share that for many times as an officer, I was so frustrated by what the sergeant was or wasn't doing. And then when I became a sergeant, I was like, I can see, man, I'm not wrong, but I wasn't right either, right? And then as a sergeant, I'd be like so frustrated with command. I'd be like, man, you don't get it. You're literally doing these things that are hurting us. And we feel like you're trying to like dig the knife in. But then I get to command and I'm like, it's not really that way. I'm not giving an excuse for command or anybody, but it's just the empathy piece where if you actually show up as a leader, you try to bridge and collaborate wherever you're at, like that's the end goal. Most of us want the same thing. Most of us want safer streets, better teamwork. We want to be effective. We want to put bad guys away and keep the community safer. All right, it's a vague, how we get there is kind of elusive, right? But we can iron that out. And so it is just to have patience, right? Like big picture, same mission, same team. That's why I really impress leadership from the very get-go. And when you're testing, right, you're wrapping yourself around this concept. Do I want to be a cop? Like you mentioned earlier, maybe the person that's just starting to learn more about this, like think about how you run your life now. Okay, are you a dependable person? Are you reliable? Do you take charge? Are you working on your fitness? Are you working on your social interaction, right? Are you learning something every day? Then you're already becoming a leader or a better version of a leader.
Right. I like that. Yes. And I mean, as we grow and develop, everyone becomes a leader in their own rights, or should develop into that. No matter what your rank is or occupation, you should be developing into some sort of leader, because we all need to lead, for one, our own lives, and then we have families that we need to lead and guide to mold to continue on this process. So therefore, we can't stay stagnant. I appreciate how you mentioned all of that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And just a spin off of that is, I would actually submit and challenge those that think that leadership is about rank. And really, a lot of the most impactful, influential leaders don't have rank. They're your officers, your road dogs, your line level detectives. They're just doing the work, but they're doing it humbly. They're doing it with drive. They're a team asset. So everyone goes to them. They have all that institutional knowledge, all that credibility. And the reason why they're more effective in certain ways is that they don't have any compulsion. Like there's no power in why people want to follow him or why I want to do things like Detective Johnson, right? He doesn't have rank over me. I just decide I want to be like him because of how he's showing up, or I want to be like, that Sarge, even though I'm a fellow sergeant, because of how she's doing things. Like she's just modeling a great behavior. So again, like the lower rank or no rank, like sometimes speaks volumes. So you have that power absolutely in your team.
Yeah, that reminds me of a department I worked for a long time ago when I was very young. There was another patrol officer. He was an older gentleman at the time. And when I came on, I was like, why is this guy still working patrol? I mean, he does not fit the mold of patrol. I'm like, you look like you're ready to get out of here and retire. You look miserable coming in. But that was just the stoic look on his face. I read him wrong. And then when I got on the shift and started working with him more often, this guy was brilliant. This guy was a leader amongst leaders. He got out the car. First time I've seen an officer while working get out the car and walk the neighborhood. Played football, played basketball, knew everybody on the block. He said hello and was able to have real conversations. I remember coming out of my first call, I'm still doing the interview stance and I'm having the conversation. You're stiff. Is that how you would talk to your mom or your sister or brother? I'm like, no. Like when you talk to them like you would talk to somebody in your family, and you'll get better results. And he would be talking and having basic conversations. And even if someone was yelling at him or cussing them out, he would stop, let them say their piece, take a deep breath, and I'm glad you were able to get that out. Now can we have a conversation, because I'm here to help you. And it would work. I was like, wow.
Yeah, people just want to be heard, right? They want to say their piece, but we try to be efficient, or we like, hey, I see where this is going. Let me cut you off. That does not go well, right? Just giving people the time, right?
Exactly. Be the referee is what I like to tell some of the guys, Sometimes you just got to stand there and let them get it all out. You're the first person. You showed up first. They just want to get it out. After that, they decompress. And most times once they get it out, they apologize afterwards. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take that out on you.
I love the example, right? The hands up, like interview stance. You have your notebook up in front of your face in case they cold cock you. But that's the thing is, you learn that in academy in case someone is exhibiting the signs, right? Like if someone's clenching their fists and like clenching their jaw, like, don't put your notebook away. Take a step back, maybe keep your hands up here where you can be more reactive. Right. But the general person's like, my car was broken into, and runs up to you. You gotta be like, whoa, hold up. And it's like, it takes experience and some good training to recognize the difference for sure. But I was there too. I think it's just it's a new guy or gal thing for sure.
Gotcha. So as we're talking about Blue Grit Wellness, your podcast and your website and everything that you got going on, please enlighten us on things that you put out, things that you have, when you produce content and post it, on your website when it's up. Please tell us everything that you have going on. Right now, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram. So that's Blue Grit Wellness. That's where there's posts about police culture, about training, hiring, leadership, culture, all these positive mindset things that I'm thinking about and that my guests on the podcast are offering. Clee's going to be on the show as well, so tune in there. So then that gets to the website, and you can subscribe to a free newsletter on the website, bluegritwellness.com. The shop is in there for the guides that I mentioned, right? So one's a hiring guide, one's a promotional guide, because oftentimes really great leaders up and coming just don't know the arduous process for promotion, interviewing, how do you show up, how do you talk about yourself, all these things. Going to the podcast. So the podcast started a couple of years ago. It's a lot of industry leaders at all ranks, right? Talking about police leadership, talking about police wellness, first responder stuff. It's not all police, right? So a lot of cross-industry experts coming in to talk about these different facets that will help all of us develop, right? So it's all about better cops, better teams, better community. That's Blue Grit Radio. So Blue Grit Radio on all your major players, Apple, Spotify. It airs generally twice to 3 times a week. So you can listen to all the smattering of topics that we talk about there.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. And through the course of conversation, is there anything else that you would like to put out there? Any motivational information or anything that you would like to share with us before we wrap up and close?
Yeah, I think we covered it all, but it's just a recognition for everyone listening, whether you're a cop hopeful or whether you just want to support cops, you have a cop family member, or you're mid or toward the end of your career, retired, what have you. Right? There's always something you can do that's positive for yourself and everyone around you. So start small. That's what I would say. Just recognize those free resources. It doesn't have to be mine, but I try to put a lot of things that are out there that are helpful. So send me a line, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, whether it's my email, bluegritwellness@gmail. Here to help. So if there's something you want to hear about, you got questions, like shoot me a line. That's what I'm here for. But I really appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you making yourself available and sharing wonderful content. It's very necessary. I love to humanize the badge and move the needle forward. And so therefore putting you on the spotlight it wasn't a chore at all.
I'm stressed out. I need a vacation.
Oh my gosh, major pain. Did you fall? You don't look okay. Hold still. Let me check you out. You're running a fever. You must be stressed out again.
I'm just gonna stop by the store, get some medicine, and drive home and go to sleep.
Oh my gosh, Major. You have to stop being so stressed out.
Yeah. Duty calls. I always got work to do. As soon as I get some rest, I'll be fine.
Oh no, what are these guys doing here?
Misdemeanor and Treacherous Tony just recently broke out of prison. Treacherous Tony's there to steal some medication. And Misdemeanor, well, he's the muscle. Get out of here, right now.
Absolutely not. You're in no condition to fight. I'm calling for help.
I'm an old school cop. You don't know me, son. Major Payne is preparing for battle, and Misdemeanor thinks he has an easy victory. And you may be surprised to hear this, and I actually wish you could see it, but the old man still has some moves. Yeah, let's get out of here. I thought you were the muscle. How'd you get beat?
Oh my gosh, Sergeant Be Safe. Honestly, he won the fight, but he was so stressed out that he passed out.
Hey, Sarge, we gotta get him out of here. We're gonna take him to the hospital. Please, take good care of him. Those guys went way too far. We gotta track them down and put them back in jail. And that's your tip of the day. Get you on your way.
there you have it. Oh, I'm little again. We gotta fix that. There we go. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you guys for tuning in. I apologize on the video got cut off at the end. And also the sound that didn't line up with the, how the talking points and all that. It was just a little bit off. Those kind of things, I got to work on that. I apologize again, but it was a great interview. Eric, thank you for making yourself available and coming on the show. You provided some good, wonderful information. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, make sure you guys check out his podcast. Make sure you guys check out his website. If you're thinking about law enforcement, if you're thinking about how to become a better first responder, he gives good information and good insight on that. Make sure you guys check out his platforms. He's a great person to have in this field. He's always moving the needle forward. He's very positive. So please go ahead, give him a tag, like, share, subscribe. Check him out. He's doing wonderful things. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. This is Black and Blue. The podcast is just for you. We go live at 7 p.m. weekly, and when we go live with the first responder or law enforcement officer, whether they're rookie season or retiree, and we talk about their trainings, experiences, and publications. We didn't fall short today. Make sure you guys tag, like, share, get this information out there. We will be going live again next week. I'm not going to tell you who exactly they are. We're going to do kind of a mix of live interviews and recorded interviews until we're going to find the right perfect flow. We're going to continue to grow the channel, continue to move the needle forward and grow the badge. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's favorite baker. I am Ecclesiastic Triumphs Code Book 302, the coldest code switching detective. And you spell my name CLEE, which means continuing law enforcement edutainment, because we educate and we entertain at the same time. So Sergeant Be Safe is going to take us out, and I will see you guys next week. You guys take care of each other. 10-4, over and out.
Sergeant Be Safe is inviting you to watch this exciting and fun podcast, Black and Blue. It airs weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's just for you. When we go live with a dynamic law enforcement officer or first responder, whether they're rookie, seasoned, or retiree. We talk about their trainings, experiences, and their publications. We've had tremendous guests already, and we have many, many more tremendous guests coming down the pipeline. You want to subscribe.
Sergeant Be Safe is here.
Black and Blue is on various podcasts, especially on YouTube, so make sure you guys subscribe. And don't forget about me, Sergeant Be Safe. I have my own channel too, so make sure you subscribe to that as well. We have many adventures, learning experiences, and we have fun while we do it. You guys don't want to miss it. Not only with the special guests that's being featured, you'll see video skits of me and the bad guys, Rob You Blind, Misdemeanor, Treacherous Tony, Chance Wilder, aka Wild Chance, and Sapphire Steel. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
I'm not a bad cop.
I never once said you were. It would be real simple if the problem was bad cops. It ain't.